Hey friend, and welcome back to the Alex Makes VR podcast. It's day number 9 of my 10-day challenge where every single day I am putting out a podcast episode in the hopes to inspire and encourage you listening, to take some action on something that you have been procrastinating on all year, or maybe just to give you that little nudge to say, you know what, it doesn't take hours and hours and hours sometimes. It starts with the first 5 minutes. Listen to this podcast, get fired up, or just let me give you that gentle push to say, go and spend the next 5 minutes, whatever it is you're doing, just pause 5 minutes just to make some progress on something in your life. Now, it's all very ironic, really, because I do that spiel and I really genuinely mean it. And I hope that you listening right now do feel inspired to go do something. Today, funnily enough, is the first day of this challenge where I have really been procrastinating from recording the episode. It's funny because yesterday's episode, I was like absolutely on one. I was like on top of the world. I was fired up. I was buzzing off of copious amounts of sugar. And today it's been more kind of like I've had lots of errands to run. I've been getting busy buying like presents for Christmas, like mental energy of like working out the logistics for Christmas this year. And just had a million and one things going on, had a few phone calls with people. And so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I've got to do the podcast. I'm definitely going to do the podcast. And normally I have this very set routine when I do the podcast. I do it in the morning. As many of you know, if you've been listening for a while, I love a good old morning walk. I go on my morning walk, I get inspired, listen to something myself, whether it's music or a podcast, and then get home and then record the podcast episode. But today I've really been dragging my feet. And I was like, no, I've got to do it. What am I going to talk about though? Like, I need to think of like a subject. Then I was like, that is the subject. The subject is the fact that, yes, yesterday I was on one. I was inspired. I was motivated. That was one of those times where, just kind of like lightning strikes and you're like, yeah. Today is not one of those days. Today is one of those days where quite happily I could do nothing creative. I could do nothing productive. I could, just exist. And do you know what? Sometimes that is okay. But I've committed to this 10-day challenge and I want you to be committed and know that sometimes when it's just 5 minutes, sometimes you just got to show up. And that's a theme that we've talked about before. We've talked about this idea of, I think it's Seth Godin who talks about the fact that amateurs show up when they're inspired and professionals just show up every day. And that's the difference, especially if it's something that is creative or quite mentally taxing, something that requires quite a lot of energy. Just showing up for 5 minutes, it's just 5 minutes. Even if you sit there blanking, even if you sit there getting frustrated because you can't think of the right words to type into Google to find the thing that you want to do, just showing up for 5 minutes, that in itself is an accomplishment. And that in itself builds the habit, builds the routine, keeps you mentally invested in the thing that you're doing. Because even if you take one step back in terms of you don't feel like you've made progress, the very fact that you showed up is progress. The very fact that you showed up and did it is an accomplishment. So that's really it for today's episode, because I guess that's it. I kind of like was thinking about like creative subjects I could talk about, or I've had a couple of people reach out off the back of this challenge with ideas of what to talk about. And it's ironic really, isn't it? Because it's like the penultimate episode of this 10-day challenge. And I was just kind of like, I don't really feel inspired or don't feel like I know what to talk about. And then I was like, no, wait, hang on. That in itself is the subject. And again, we've talked about that before. One of my favourite kind of mottos or, ideas that I've discovered this year is this idea that motivation doesn't lead to action. It's the opposite way around. Action leads to the momentum, which leads to more motivation. The very fact that I'm recording this right now, the very fact that you're listening to it right now, the very fact that you are now going to go and take that action, that momentum is the important bit. It doesn't matter what the result is. It doesn't matter whether the result of this is that you go and write something, but you it's like not your best writing. Doesn't matter if you listen to this and go and try and edit something, but it's just not your best work. You're not mentally there. The momentum, the motivation comes from the fact that you have taken action. You are the kind of person that shows up. And that's what this challenge has really been about. It's about being the kind of person that does the thing that you want to do. It's funny, I remember hearing a while back actually on a podcast about the fact that when they scan your kind of brain activity, right, there's a difference between when you think or talk about yourself in the present and when you talk about yourself in the future, and the different areas of your brain that light up. When you talk about yourself in the future, it's the same part of your brain that is your kind of like imagination. You know, the bit that kind of like almost is the fantasy. And what that's saying is that you don't fully believe there isn't a connection between who you are right now and that future self. It's an imagined person. It's an imagined life. And although it can be sometimes really nice to like think of that future, that alternative reality, especially for us lot working in immersive, we spend our lives thinking about the future. But actually, what you want to do is make a kind of bridge to that person. You don't want that person to be fictional. You don't want that person to be dreamlike or a fantasy. You want that person to be you. You want to be that person. You want to be the kind of person that shows up every day. You want to be the kind of person that makes something. You want to be the kind of person that takes the step to become self-employed, or takes the step to learn a new skill, or takes the step to, journal every day, whatever it might be. And the only way you do that is by showing up and by proving to yourself that you are that kind of person. Don't wait. Don't wait for the motivation. Don't say, you know what though, I'm not really feeling it today, or it's not convenient. Yeah, it's not. But if you want to be that future version of yourself, if that future version of yourself is actually something that you genuinely want for your present self, then you have to make that connection. You have to take those steps to become that person. It doesn't just happen. Like I say, it's this separate part of the brain that imagines that future, and it's your present self that can take steps and put in that 5 minutes every day to get to be that person. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you're getting on with your challenge. Penultimate day now. So, by the way, love that word. Isn't that word just like so satisfying to say? Penultimate. Anyway, let me know how you're getting on. Let me know what you've accomplished during this 10 days. Let me know if you've had days where you just didn't want to do it, but you showed up anyway. And you know what? If you didn't show up, that's fine. Like, don't beat yourself up. Just get back on track tomorrow. Because the thing is, as long as you don't quit, you can't fail, right? As long as you just don't try again, you can always pick this back up. Even if during this 10 days you were you did the first 3 days, you were on fire, and then you kind of fell off the bandwagon a little bit, it's okay. Just get back on track. 5 minutes every day. It's not that much. Even when you're not in the mood, even when you don't really feel like it, even when you're not really sure what the outcome's going to be, just take that step, take 5 minutes, and you will feel accomplished, I promise. Okay, with that said, that's it for this episode. I will see you tomorrow, day number 10 of this 10-day Festive Fire Challenge. Have a great day wherever you are in the world, and I'll speak to you then.